expressway. And what would $100 million do for the second Niger bridge? So by the time we've expended it, we perhaps will not need a civil society now who will give us a nod and say, yes, they expended properly. Because the way I see it, civil societies might just find it as a means to be part of the soup that is being cooked. So why do we need them to give them a nudge? I totally seem to agree now with Dr. Austin Sadu. So there's so much darkness. We're shrouded in the dark that we can't even tell whether government is indeed dumping good money into.
If government comes out to say we are embarking on this, there must be a plan. Whether you call it ruling or whatever, but they make people happy and all that. Now we are going to give you a second Niger bridge. The administration came in and said we want to continue where we stopped and launch another one and work assiduously to make sure that it's followed. Nothing of that sort. Now you tell me that you are going to use the 311 million loot recovered. But how will you convince people since maybe several years have been coming, administrations have been coming, and there is no stringent followership to any plans made? It may reach a time when you will also abandon your own plan now.
The form of policies and initiatives.
It could come in both ways, even structures and policies.
So it could be possible that we've had a lot of policy innovations or policy somersaults, perhaps, that were supposed to be developmental plans.
Yes, absolutely, yes, because, that's what I'm talking. When I'm saying that, what of the plan of the first person that inaugurated or launched this particular bridge? Is policy somersault, because this one is coming, perhaps to jettison his own and all that.
I'm only asking this because, we understand that for President Buhari, he had his economic and recovery growth plan that he launched. And from that, they have steadily churned out certain policies and initiatives, which they should bring about a new Nigeria.
Yes.
For me, that qualifies as development, right?
It is.
So when we're looking at development, which is
as for plans,
does it form? Yes. Do you agree on that, Dr. Lu? You're in economics, so you would know this better.
Well,
so when we're looking at development plans, will policies and initiatives
form? Development plans. If you want to complete, say socio-economic development plans.
Okay.
And now, if you are looking at that, you are looking not just one sector. Development will mean improvement in the life of a people in terms of output of goods and services, in terms of health, infrastructure, medicine, and all aspects of human life. Right? Mm-hmm. That is why a country or an economy that do not have a development plan, I don't know how far they can go. Because there are various aspects of human life. And so it's a development plan that will encapsulate what is going to happen in different aspects of human life at different within the period that the plan specifies. That is just it. Now, at micro level, you have your scale of preference. That's at individual level. You have your scale of preference. This, and you make your choice. This is what I want to do within this period. This is what I want to buy in the market as I go to the market. You cannot escape this. So at macro level or at economy level, country's economy level, and nobody is talking about this is what we are going to do at so aspects of human life at a given time. I don't know how far they can go. And now when you talk of development plan, if the legislation must buy into it, because certain things that you need to provide will need legislative backing.
Yeah, but I do know that the economic recovery and growth plan was debated upon. It has legislative backing.
It has legislative backing. Well, again, the public also have to buy in. So when you want to go into development plan, which is what Nigeria did when we were growing, better before the military administration. That is what we did. Now, from your analysis, you see that the military is the bane or one of the major bane of our development.
So since then, we can't
Since
pick
then,
up. We can't pick up
and
as
you know why?
Is it
And
today
you know-
that the military ended the era?
No. Yeah, you know why? Some of the military regimes ended 2 years alone. You understand? A coup will come after 2 years. Some come, so nobody knows when a term is going to end.
yeah, but since
And so
It makes it easier if it's shorter.
since 1999, we haven't had any of that.
Yes.
So what have we been doing since then? Still wondering how the military got us here.
Then another factor is the quality of leadership.
All right.
Quality of leadership.
Now you've come in with the
Dr.
killer.
Sisado.
Annie,
Yeah.
whether you call it development plan or rolling plan, is about the same thing.
Yes.
I think the concept of rolling is as different from developmental plan was to say that we don't have a specific timeline. We're going to
accomplish
continue,
this.
and we'll roll it over. So we continue. The intention of that is if we start a project, what that signifies is that we can dream about 15 years, but we start the 15 years from
Now.
today. So whatever we're going to do to end at 15 years, we'll start today. So in piecemeal, we do it as we're able to do, given the indications we have on what they call sources and application of fund in corporate finance management, that this is where we're going to, but we're going to be doing this like this. If we're going to borrow money you see what he's saying, this is just my pedestrian understanding of what
an opinion on
should
this.
be.
Yeah. Mhm.
Now, but I also think that whatever dreams or development plan we had died at the third stage. I was discussing with somebody yesterday, and I told them that the set of governors who were in power during the Second Republic, Jim Obodo, Ambrose Ali, the man in Kaduna, Baba Kekere, what's his
Who?
The Lagos man, what was his name?
Jakande.
Jakande.
Sorry. We're used to calling him Baba Kekere.
Baba Kekere. Was he small?
I don't know where that came from. But he's not a big man anyway.
Okay.
Now, in corner, watching these present governors and saying, that wasn't what we did.
Yeah.
Many of those people didn't have any house more than 4 bedroom. Military. It's not just military. Because for every military, they had civilian counterparts who were actually the government.
Of course.
The military boys were just roll heads.
Bureaucrats.
While these ones were the one doing the damage in the country. The ones that are coming tomorrow, these ones will also be looking. So you see, progressively we've gone backward, and it's a big shame. Progressively we've gone backward. That's why nothing works. So if you look at a development plan, it has to be systemic, meaning that our drive in education is tied to our infrastructural expectation and development, is tied to our healthcare delivery, is tied to our economic industrialization. You do this now to show you clearly that we don't have any. The primary school we had in 1970, yet at every engineering site in Nigeria, you either have a Lebanese or
Or a
Chinese. Where are the engineers? Our medical of course, COVID had just exposed where this pandemic is over. Water, who cannot afford soap, who cannot afford sanitizer, who cannot afford food. And so when those people are crying, the reaction of the elite at the early stage was clearly because they were the most vulnerable. Watch what I'm saying. From now moving on, you will see that there will be a deterioration of service delivery. So that's another case.
Emmanuel, we spoke about this earlier, I think. Yeah. Remember when I mentioned the fact that the elites have been able to pull themselves out of the equation.
Yeah.
So it's left for us.
Exactly.
If we'd like the
You
COVID
do
to
it.
kill us, kill
Beautiful.
they've removed themselves from the equation.
Yeah. So we're seeing all the sectors. Is it not a shame that we had car bottling? Plants.
Motor
in this country.
assembly.
Yes, assembly in this country, and they're nowhere. They mentioned the refineries in Port Harcourt and Warri in that third stage.
Yeah.
They mentioned the road. Tell me what had happened from 1980 till
Nothing.
today.
We paused
Given
then.
the amount of money the only thing for me that has happened is that leaders have now become wealthier than previous leaders. So Nigerians should appreciate the fact that where we are now is just sit down. How much do we have? Share it amongst ourselves. Pretend to put it in projects and cause some persons to.
Well, Eric did say that the only development plan we have is the National Assembly.
No, I couldn't stand it when he said. But that's a big development plan. If you are going to renovate the National Assembly with 39 billion or 37 billion. If you're going to renovate National Assembly that had been renovated about 3 years ago, you're going to renovate it with 37 billion. That must be a big project. So that's a big development plan. And I think that moving forward, Nigerians must begin now to look critically. Let's forget about who is in power. Let's forget about our political affiliation, the religious implication. Let's look at the delivery. What are we taking out of? What is the government giving us in return for the power we have given to them, for the money that is at their disposal? Even when oil, I don't like to talk about the price of oil because I've done a number of things with it. Nigeria's oil production is one of the least in cost, yet our oil is one of the best. So if you are looking at oil, the question of how much it costs us to produce oil is mere politics. So they shouldn't even tell us that the oil is coming down and it's lower than cost. They are selling less than production price. It's not true. We have seen. Well, I don't know what has increased it. At a point, we went into an analysis and it was established that with $14 you produce a barrel of crude oil. And I don't know what these people are talking about, the price of crude oil and no price of crude oil. And I'm angry about what you're saying.
Don't be angry, please. Don't. I don't have water to give you. All right. I have joining us also Dr. Emmanuel Warner. He's a lecturer, Department of Political Science, University of Port Harcourt. Dr. Warner, it's good to have you. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Annie.
All right. So, Dr. Warner, I'll bring you up to speed with what we've been talking about. All right. We particularly looked at the funds to be that has been repatriated, not to be repatriated, 311.7 million naira from Abacha loot that Nigeria says they've got delivery of. The Minister for Justice was, Attorney General for Nigeria was one who was making that statement. And he said that they've got delivery of that. It's in some account with the CBN, and in the next 14 days it will make its way to the NSIA. And the NSIA, which is in charge of investing Nigeria's excess crude funds, will use that to fund some projects under the presidential infrastructure funded projects. And amongst these three, there are three they're targeting, which is the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the second Niger Bridge, and the Abuja-Kano Expressway. This is where they expect that these funds will go into. So the conversation generally was on whether that is enough. I mean, Nigerians, each time a bottle loot was repatriated, had said, you know what, it's either you share this money, let everybody have a piece of it, or you divert it to some concrete thing, and we know that all the money was plugged into this. So when we look at that, we know this is a batch of loot. This perhaps eases our fear that this money was relooted. And if in this instance, the government says, well, we're going to use that for these three projects, is that enough to convince us that, well, they're doing something tangible this time around? They did mention that in doing so, they will involve themselves with a civil society organization that will act like, some check or something to assure the public of the transparency in the discharge of this thing. So that was the angle we started the conversation with. I'll get your thoughts on that before I quickly get the issue of development. So let me get your thoughts on the repatriation so far and what they intend to do with the funds.
Well, Ali, we've heard of this Abacha loot over time, and we are thinking that by now that loot would have had tremendous positive impacts on the lives of Nigerians. Thank God we've gotten that loot back, but my worry is it appears each time we have this loot, it's either going on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, Niger Delta Bridge, Niger Bridge, or that other express route mentioned. Why is it that for almost, it's getting to 2, 3, 4 years, we've been talking about these same projects over and over again? And that, in a way, gives me the belief that, we are not serious with our lives as a people, and the leaders are not also committed to the welfare of the citizens. I was thinking that by now, having expended much on these projects, that this money should have been used to invest on economic ventures that will have multiple effects on the life of the people. You keep on hearing that the Lagos Ibadan Expressway, Niger Bridge, or whatever they call it. Every time, that's the kind of project. When will they complete this project, for crying out loud? This is about the second tranche or so of this Abacha loot, and we're yet to see any tremendous impact. Every time is on the Lagos Ibadan Express Road. Every time. How about other people from other parts of the country? Wouldn't they also have an impact? Have the impact of this route? So it appears to me that there's a skeleton in the cupboard.
But really, the money couldn't go around to all parts of the country if that's what you were looking at.
No. I'm saying that. This is about either the third or third. We'll be hearing about loot. We've recovered this. We've recovered that. So if you are, investing it on projects, we are saying that let this last tranche go to other parts of the country. There are projects here and there. There are also federal bad roads in other parts of the country. So we are saying that why not extend it to these other parts? Look at express to the East-West Road. The East-West Road is still bad, abandoned. So we are also part of Nigeria. Every time is Lagos Ibadan, it's Niger Dam Bridge. Every time. So I am thinking that there is need for them to also extend their hands to other parts. There are other federal projects. You have the Ajaokuta Steel Complex lying waste. We have the refineries. Why not also plunge this money into some of these, projects that can also, improve the welfare of the citizens? So I am thinking that something is wrong with the issue of civil society. I don't think they will have any tremendous effect, a check on them, because he who plays the piper dictates the tone. We've heard of several civil society. And again, if you also consider the fact that at this point in time, it appears that civil societies are not very much efficacious as compared to those days, the days of Anthony Nahoro and all those people that were committed to, fighting injustice in this country. So I think that if you say that, civil society is going to act as a check, I don't see it as very, very veritable check on what government intends to do. If they want to do anything, I don't think civil society will be a very strong check on what they want to do. So I think that government at this point in time, considering the economy we are in, for me, I would have suggested that there should be a turnaround in terms of trying to see how these monies can be invested in things that can have, appreciable impact on the lives of ordinary Nigerians. Decentralize these things, distribute these things, invest on agriculture. We are talking about agriculture. We are talking about diversifying the economy. Enough of this Lagos Ibadan Expressway. Every time Lagos Ibadan Expressway, Niger Delta Bridge. When will they complete this project? So I am thinking that it is important. It's the high time government started investing on viable economic ventures. Invest this money so that Nigerians wake up one morning and say, look, okay, this is the benefit of the money Abacha looted, and we are reaping the benefit of this money in terms of, enhancing the welfare of Nigerians. Invest on agriculture. We've been talking about agriculture. If you have this kind of money, why not start, even if it's a pilot scheme, start it somewhere in one of the states or any of the geopolitical zone. Let it then gradually extend to other geopolitical zones, other states. Let them queue it. Let it be a matter of national policy. That look, every state government, every tier of government must queue into agriculture. Let's use this money, distribute this money, and make it a point of, commitment that every tier of government must show a sign of commitment, and there should be measures put on ground to ensure that, we go back to the land. We go back to the land.
All right,
For me, that's the sure way that we can have appreciable impact on this Abacha loot.
All right. We've got your thoughts on that. The news update comes up next. So we'll come back. We'll perhaps get your views on development plans and agendas and policies so far seen in the Nigerian space. Just stay with us.
You ready? Today, 95.1 FM, the voice of the people. Every day, every hour, when the big stories break, depend on our 24-hour news team to bring you the latest. Today, 95.1 FM.
Today, 95.1 FM. Board Hardcore. News Update.
Hello and good morning. Here's the news update on Today 95.1 FM. I'm Annie Abdul Salam. Nigerian Center for Disease Control has acknowledged that the easing of the lockdown in Abuja, Lagos, and Ogun states would lead to transmission of COVID-19 in the affected states. Director General of the NCDC, Dr. Chikwe Ihekweazu, made the observation during a briefing of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 in Abuja. The NCDC boss said it received unpleasant reports of non-compliance with the social distancing directive by residents of the affected states. Meanwhile, 400 persons have now recovered from COVID-19 in Nigeria. This is contained in the latest update by Abuja and 20 states. The NCDC data also showed that Bauchi, Katsina, and Kwara states have discharged 6 patients each, while Delta and Ondo states have recorded 4 and 3 recoveries respectively. Rivers, Ekiti, and Enugu states have 2 recoveries each, while Anambra, Abia, Niger, and Sokoto states have discharged 1 patient each. River State Governor Nyesom Wike has announced a 24-hour total lockdown on Obiakpo and Port Harcourt City local government areas of the state. The governor made the declaration in a statewide broadcast where he announced that the lockdown on the 2 local government areas would advise all residents of the affected local government areas to stay at home, while also placing a ban on the gathering of more than 2 people, except for those on essential services. And on the foreign scene, Madagascan President Andry developments during a national address where he extended the state of health emergency in the southern African island nation by 15 days. The Madagascan president said the trials were in partnership with foreign researchers. The Malagasy government has so far been distributing the COVID-19. And that was the news update at Today 95.1 FM. Do not forget, take responsibility. Wash your hands frequently with soap on the running water. Avoid touching your...
Has never been this good. Today, 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt. The voice.
You don't wake up one day and say, okay, this policy is working, and then you expect it to crash the market in the next.
Cassava variety that says 7 months. Do they know it or they don't?
What's the
Because you can see they are involved.
They are involved, true.
So how can you solve it? What will stop it? They're involved. Look at 1.20 billion special allowance, 1.2 billion special allowance, padding of budget, 4 billion, this billion, 400 billion. How can they stop
Hello,
it?
good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, what's your name?
Yeah, this is Mr. Zion. I'm calling from Port Harcourt.
All right.
With Annie.
Opinion poll on today's quest.
More than 3 over 4 of the loots we are talking about in this country today were loots within the 16 years.
Here is a great opportunity to sample all our opinions on the issues raised.
Port Harcourt says the PDP is trying to divert our attention because Nigerian funds was looted by the PDP. Melody in Uniport says Madam Jonah is yet to come in terms of the fact that her tenure has expired. Annie, please tell him that investigation is not what you make public until the final stage.
Send your opinion to us on Facebook and our SMS portal using the numbers 070-1933-9962. Five minutes going past 10. You're still listening to Today 95.1 FM, Voice of the People. All right, so we'll continue with development. Dr. Warner, after we looked at where the money was supposed to be plugged into, conversations on development in Nigeria, came on. And we looked at the fact that over the years, Nigeria had development plans. And the military came on board, and what we saw was rolling. The point when we had development plans were when we actually did see propelled at that time during the 3rd development plan that are still existential till now and pretty much functional. So the conversation was what happened to having a development plan? Like, we will now understand why this Abacha loot has to go to a certain area if it falls with the development plan of where Nigeria intends to be now or where she's heading to. And it doesn't mean we're just scattering projects or taking initiatives as our whims give us at each given time. And so we wanted to get your idea now on what you think concerning development plans and how it doesn't seem we have any now. Does this mean that we don't understand where we're going to or where we're heading to, and what systems we need to put in place?
Annie, it's one thing to have plans, and it's another thing to ensure that those plans come to reality. Unfortunately, these development plans have not actually been given the attention they deserve. They just come as if they are cosmetic plans, flourish plans, plans that do not actually have a political will behind them. And so when that happens, it's just like a mere ritual. Let's just have this plan and then satisfy the curiosity or anxiety of the people without actually having the real, intentions in terms of implementing them. So we have all these plans, and but the problem is that of actual implementation. And so, but it's important that a people should have plan. But again, it's also important that the people should also be committed, particularly the leadership, should be committed in terms of implementing them. Over time, we've had so many of these plans, so many of these programs, lined up. But the problem is that we have political will to actually implement these plans. Implementation is not there. So it's important that we should begin to look at the orientation, particularly with the leaders, so that if the leaders have proper orientation and political will that can actually galvanize these plans into reality, then we'll begin to talk about meaningful plans that can change the lifestyle of Nigerians. It's just like any other policy, like government will come up with policies and programs. For instance, like I said earlier, we've been talking about government. This present government has been talking about diversification of the economy, possibly through agriculture. The last time I checked, I think they rolled up agricultural policies and programs, but applicable. And that is why the issue of governance is a very, very slim issue in terms of trying to actually impact positively on the lives of Nigerians. So it's about our values. It's about the way we do things here. It's about the way our leaders, the commitment on the part of our leaders to ensure that, the welfare of the citizen is protected. What are the fundamental functions of the state? I mean, the leaders, is to ensure that the welfare of the citizen is protected. And you can only do that when you have, functional and efficacious plans that, are backed up by the commitment of the leaders, by the political will of the leaders. But unfortunately, this is not there. These things are not there, So you find a situation where, even though and I think that's why they are tired of these plans. In fact, Nigerians are tired of the plans. Because if you make the first, second, third, fourth plan, and nothing is coming out of it, of course, naturally speaking.
I don't think we're tired of the plans, because for me, I think it's better there's a plan for which I can use to measure you and determine that you have failed in this, than not to understand what your intents are or where we're supposed to be heading to. Because in any which ways, you can claim you're doing something, and there's no yardstick to measure you by.
Exactly, but we're saying
that's what I'm saying. For me, it's best there's a plan.
Exactly, there's better, but a situation. Okay, look at outside the fourth plan. I don't think there is any other plan.
No, like we said, after the development plan, there was none until we had the military coming with rolling plans. But I mentioned that at least for I think Good Luck had a plan. There was something there was an agenda, something.
It was an agenda.
Needs.
And
no,
was it needs? No, there was something agenda.
Economic something development. There's something they did.
There was something they did.
Yes.
And for Buhari now is the economic and medium term something goals that they expect to achieve. But like I said, not plenty of people are in tune with what that is supposed to deliver. Because for me, most of it, like I've gone through, are supposed to be policy initiatives.
Exactly.
So businesses can grow, so the medium and small and medium scale businesses can thrive. And so it's more of policy initiatives.
Exactly.
But we can categorize that as development, because if we didn't have those policies and that initiative to do that, these sectors will not grow, and it's needed in line with development, right?
Exactly. From different aspects of the economy. you can take it holistically. They are part of the plan, probably because they have looked at the past plans, first, second, third, and fourth, and they said, okay, this part of this area, and see what we can achieve from there. So somebody can come up with, a policy trust or policy initiative to do that. It's part of the plan. But again, you also realize, fundamentally that when you talk about plan, it's a holistic thing. It's something that needs to be fundamental, where you also need to take into consideration the number of persons you are planning for. You need to also consider population. Unfortunately, we don't even know how many we are. We are told by international bodies, the UN, that we are about 200 million, which we don't even really know. We are not sure. So it's also part of the plan. So you understand that when you are planning, plan has to be measured, plan has to be achievable, plan has to be time bound, So you need to also consider all those things. So if at the end of the time you don't achieve your objectives, your aims, then there's need for you to also take a little look inward into the plan you have already made and see where you have, where you have fallen short of expectations and where you need to improve, and so you need to carry on. But like I said earlier, unfortunately in Nigeria, it's not even about planning. It's about the implementation of this plan.
I agree with you.
I mean, how are we committed? What's the political will on the part of the leaders to ensure that these plans are implemented?
I agree with you. There was something I was just reading now.
Yes.
I can access it again. It's something on livelihood family something scheme initiated by this administration that was in the first tenure.
Yeah.
And what that
2016, 17,
yes,
or 18.
yes, what that initiative was supposed to do was supposed to help agricultural ingenuity in villages.
Okay.
And so it was a scheme that was supposed to see like clusters of 10 to 20 people driving an agricultural project within villages. They wanted it to be village centered, and for them it was supposed to be some sort of groundness to the family structure in the village, and perhaps reduce urban migration, but also that we're utilizing the available lands within the villages and somehow improving agriculture. And there was supposed to be loans attached to that.
Good.
Certain banks supposed to give loans specific to drive that. Now, until I read it, I didn't know that was available, and that was supposed to be in the first tenor. I didn't know it was available. So it is how much of the information that their plans is made available to the people, and how much of that actually gets done. Because I can imagine how in implementing that and the loans that were supposed to be given, whether if those loans actually went to families in the villages or some cronies access the money and then use it for something else. So is the government even measuring themselves? Do they say, at the end of the year, we're supposed to have targeted 20 families in the villages. So this year, what we have is 5. If they're not doing that, the rest of us who have no knowledge that was supposed to even happen, how do we begin to measure and understand whether it was implemented fully or that it was diverted along the line?
Exactly. And Annie,
there's too much darkness.
Exactly. What you said now just reminded me of, in those days when African leaders thought about African socialism, they talked about Pan-Africanism. And, they came up with the idea of ensuring that they fall back to the land through what they called Ojama Vijijini, villagization, having fine settlement for the rural populace so that they can actually, exert their energy on the land and produce, because they realize that a certain African personality in the international community is not just by saying it, it's by actually depending on the economic resources of the people, So they realize that the economic potentials, within the context of international relations. And so they are backed on what they call Ojama Vijijini, villagization, trying to have fine settlement for the, villagers, allowing villagers to actually, explore and exploit natural resources within their environment. And that is important because if you consider the need for people to actually have independence and self-sufficiency, what they call autarky. So when, our leaders come up with, such policies, for me, like I said earlier, they do it like mere ritual. Let's fulfill all righteousness. let it be that we have to the nature of the Nigerian state in terms of, the behavior of the actors of Nigerian state. We will still remain where we are. Because what it means, therefore, is that you have a crop of leaders who don't even have the interests of the people at heart. They don't.
All right.
They are just there as mere figures trying to claim what they are not.
Indeed.
But was even the money would have known about that, and maybe 1 million persons got the loans. But the truth is that few of them that got the loan was that facility.
Improvement family enterprises, life program, and women in rural and suburban cooperatives nationwide.
Yes. I think this is the second time I've heard about
of life.
Yes. Second.
And a state government could
It's
easily.
program.
It's a political program.
That's what it is.
No, you see, the family head.
Okay.
Now, when this
Through the central bank and other regulatory bodies. So, in those days, I know that there used to be, when they had 60-40 policy in the government with respect to lending to agriculture, there is no state government that can implement it. Then they were saying, at least you must do 40% of your lending to agricultural projects, while you can do the other one. Unfortunately, the state government cannot implement it. It cannot enforce it. But even when the federal government that is empowered, every aspect of our development is politicized. The central bank governor of Nigeria seems to be the central bank governor of the political party that appointed the central bank governor. So in the implementation of policies, it's looking at the body language. Our central bank governor cannot disagree with government on any policy implementation. Elsewhere, governors of central banks disagree with government. No,
administration.
Exactly. So when you say this is something that the federal government can do it because they have the power to do it, but what is the intention? How in your outline or in your guideline rather, is it very clear on who qualifies and on what terms the person qualifies to draw from that loan? What are sanctions? As it has been for many of the program, including this empowerment. Shopee, yeah. Shopee was, to qualify, you have to be a member of PDP. What the APC doing now to qualify? So you don't need to show that you have land. You don't need to show that you are involved in agriculture. You don't need to show that there's a cooperative. In fact, they mentioned 150 cooperatives. 1 year after, 2 years after, can they tell us the number of cooperatives and the multiplier effect created by those cooperatives? Because if you were to have cooperative in the rural community, 80 million, we now have over 100 million pulled back into poverty. So until the government begins to realize that governance is about the people, it's not about those in the big offices in Abuja, it's not about the state governors and the parliament. When they realize that they are there for the people and begin to target those people as the beneficiaries of government projects, it will merely remain projects on papers to be publicized through the media for the accolade that government expect to get from it.
I get your point.
Yeah, I want to believe what Dr. Sada said is true. But then, you see, let's say when we talk about perhaps our behavior in politics, I think our backwardness is very glaring all round, not only in politics. Now, let's say, yes, as APC is in power now, it is APC members that will benefit from this. Will APC run? Because I don't want to believe it will continue being in power forever. If APC had finished its own tenure, only those of us that are political that will be sidelined. If APC members were empowered through this system and another party takes over, they empower also their members, Nigeria is improving.
It's the same people.
No, you don't understand what I'm saying.
With each government, they change.
Yes.
Good.
So the APC that was APC now will become PDP when PDP is PDP.
Whichever way, but there's a multiplication of those who are getting the benefits. That's what I'm saying. Now, if APC now metamorphose into PDP because of still our immaturity, then the number that were sidelined automatically will now fall to be to embrace that program and will receive the benefit. So it's increasing. But ordinarily, it's not supposed to be that, but that's our level of maturity. Because not only in politics, nothing works out in this our nation. Nothing, absolutely. Because the politicians are the people that drive every facet of operations in
their own areas at their own pace. Government, like they raise the issue of logistics. What stops federal government from approaching state government and local government? Please, can you also help us in terms of this service mindset? Unfortunately, no matter how perfect those policies,
People.
Real talk. Real talk. But on the local politics of the Niger Delta.
But if that property you have somewhere worth that 1 billion is tied to a fraud of state money, if you can prove it's your personal money, you didn't commit any crime.
Join us every weekday, 9:45 a.m. to 11 a.m. Real talk. Keeping it real.
It's exactly 30 minutes after 10, and it's time for Real Talk. For Real Talk, we're looking at the lockdown. Governor Wike has locked down Port Harcourt and Obiapo cancels over COVID-19. He's announced a 24-hour total lockdown. Because you're more than two.
It's also given that residents refusing to comply with established directives on COVID-19 and change their behavior. This name will continue to tolerate such intransigence in the face of the action. We have decided on the extreme measure to our total lockdown from Thursday, 7th of May 2020 until further notice. All residents of Obiapo and Port Harcourt City local government area must therefore stay at home until further notice. On no account should there be any vehicular movement or gathering of more than 2 persons in these local government areas except those in essential services who must be appropriately authorized must also remain closed until further notice.
All right, we heard the governor there speaking on that. He says they have been closed until further notice. And the idea is that there will be no vehicular movement services and no vehicular transport to be at another place. How do they move, whether you're under essential services, if there's no vehicle to take you to work? It's in night markets in defiance of existing ban on such activity. He'll be taking checks to stop that spread, but it seems one way or the other pouring in from other states. For him, this is why these measures
will be happy that it gives out an order under emerging. Like I said, is that like this either company takes you or you use your car and you are able to identify your cement. Because if they say no, it means total. So I don't know what exactly is happening. So I think there should be clarification from the office of the Commissioner for Information. But it's not absolutely nothing to them where there is no food for them. And every house is not a market. Now, you don't have anything, do not know where that policy comes from.
Okay, Dr. Lulu.
Instrument. Either you choose the one of hunger or what will ameliorate that situation. Not because people disobey, therefore somebody must disobey in the society, the situation, and apply the necessary remedies. So what I'm saying is that action shouldn't be taken because somebody disobeyed. There's somebody who is an administrator, who is a leader. This is where the matters are presented again. That is that you cannot go to any hospital without medication and they recover. And I am saying this in officially. I'm saying this in World Health Organization, and people should get it clear so that people will know what inside and all that. What are the palliatives? Human being cannot stay inside the room and continue to drink water or probably.
All right. Okay.
Must be consequence fast. Some people do 1 week because we're in a state of emergency. It's a big problem. So back with the victim, the governor seems to be the victim now in this matter because the buck ends on his table and he's doing everything he has to do to make sure that we pull out. People are complicating it. When there was no lockdown, people said, oh, you see, the governor ought to have locked down. He didn't lock down early. Now they have locked down. Say, you see, why did he lock down? It's too late to lock down. So let's just understand that we are partners in this business. Whether you are in government or you are not in government, we are partners in this business. Now, we were so impatient with that partial restriction. There was a time they said Okada should not carry two people in, not Okada, and only the rider. They were still carrying the rider with another passenger and three behind. Now, but I think that government can also have some form of arrangement out. Everywhere you entered was blocked. Everywhere you entered was blocked. You keep turning around. So people must realize that it is our lives
that we're talking about.
We have to be alive to eat. With the hardship. Whether or not it is necessary, it's necessary, but you need to mitigate it. For example, banks are not working. And if you say banks are not going to work, and you say indefinitely, you're going to cause a panic in the system.
And that is what
everybody is going to get to the bank to see that they get money. Now, when you say filling stations will short, the man who has his car on essential duty will not be able to get fuel. People will stock fuel in their homes because it is properly thought about to allow those essential duties.
Because will filling stations fall under essential duties?
They should. But getting to the place,
getting to the place,
challenge for some persons. Now, the filling station attendant is not likely to have a car, and the filling station is not likely to have an official vehicle
to go pick them up.
So there has to be something. Even if the guy is going to trek, let's say he stays about 3 kilometers away from his place, you recognize that he's essential worker. You allow him and ensure that the policeman will not take undue advantage of the filling station attendant just because you don't have a voice or you don't have a deep pocket. Once we ensure that these things are happening and in our neighborhoods, I mean, we must realize that lockdown is our business. So even me in my mind, I'm locked down.
Yeah.
I only come out because
I
mean, it's not going to be, it's not a tea party. It's difficult for government, it's difficult for us.
Indeed.
But government should review and have a way of accommodating and mitigating it.
All right, Dr. Sando. Dr. Warner.
Yeah, Ali, I'm just praying that God should intervene in this whole matter because for me, I don't think we are mature enough to face this coronavirus in terms of economic ladder. In terms of the issue of the oil workers that were stateless, flown into Port Harcourt came up. I wrote something and posted on Facebook, and I was hard on ensure that it safeguards the health of its citizens. But be that as it may, you see, we are in effect when you make policies or you make order, such order should take intervening variables into consideration. You don't just make order because maybe you feel that this order will necessarily serve as a punishment for people. It's like this is like a punishment. If you consider the fact that when Rivers State government came up with the lockdown, blocking all entry points, some of us, like me, I personally hailed that move. But I was thinking that with that, we almost have up to. The reason is that that's no problem. But if we must stay at home, how about the entry points? What is government doing about? Because most of all the cases came from outside. Like governor just confirmed the case of the Bristol
helicopter, yeah.
Even when you